the trochanter area. So that head of the femur is in the socket in here, but you're working on top of the trochanter, which is kind of covering that. And it kind of gets confusing because it goes greater trochanter, trochanter, and lesser trochanter, but lesser trochanter is technically inside. This is the gluteal process where the IT band is going to attach. The IT band, people think this is a muscle. It's actually our largest tendon in the body, and it's built up of tiny, tiny layers of like tendon strands. And so over time, this can like, the older you get, the more dehydrated you are, this will literally feel like a rubber band. And so it gets pretty darn sensitive for people. So try to strip it back and forth as I'm working. I'm not going super gung-ho right off the bat. So I am going to begin, there's 3 sections. I take the top of the hip from the ilium to the trochanter first. Then I do the iliotibial band. After I've done all that, then we're going to do the hip flexor. So it's technically 3 parts. So I am going to start face to face, and I naturally pivot myself face to side. So just kind of make sure your body is ready to kind of like move a little bit. You can either do it like that on your knees, or I can be one knee down, one foot up, just so I can naturally pivot a little bit more. When I'm working around the trochanter, you guys really need to isolate with that guide hand because my elbow naturally wants to do circles around it and it kind of loses control, and I really got to focus on top because I'll never be working on the actual head of the femur in the socket. So I'm working on everything that's attaching around the socket, that's inserting at it, causing it to be in such contraction. All right. I am beginning with my nice airplane landing effleurage massage. I'm going to come in, come up to the top of that ilium. Come around. Putting a good amount of pressure on when you guys do your effleurage massage. This is like what warms them up to be able to tolerate that elbow work. So yeah, my hands aren't doing too much, but it's softening and warming up that tissue before I get in there. Just kind of feeling around it. Okay, so now that I got a general idea, I warmed up the area, I'm going to begin at the top of the ilium. I don't want you off the ledge of the crest because remember when we did low backs, I came through the iliac crest? I'm not doing that. I'm starting right at the top of the ledge. And I'm going to cover the middle, medial, and lateral. And I want you working all the way over just to the cusp of the hip itself. I don't want you falling off, of course, but you are going to do middle, medial, lateral. And once again, it doesn't matter if you strip it down the medial side, the middle, and then the lateral, or if you just shift side to side with your windshield wiper as you're working down to that trochanter. I kind of normally do the side to side to make sure I kind of cover section by section, but there's no right or wrong. I'm not going to say like, oh, you're doing it wrong. I just want you to know that. So isolating, coming in, I'm beginning right on that ilium ledge. And you're not going to feel as much pulling this direction, but everybody will feel tons of grizzled, dehydrated tissue from like us moving, doing stuff. We're always constantly activating those hips. So you're gonna get this band of grizzling, like scar tissue. It's gonna be more crystallization when I flip over and I pull into it, and it's gonna be very crunchy. So starting at the top of that ilium, placing my elbow, staying in my breath, my shoulders are down, and I'm just going to that 5, 6, 7, 8. Coming all the way to that medial side, the cusp of that ilium bone. But remember, you gotta isolate, and like I'm focusing on having control over this arm because I don't want, like if you're coming to the ledge, I see people move so fast. And that's the only thing I don't want. Like, just take your time with it. Try to feel like you peeled some of those fibrous tissues apart and then move along a little bit. So I'm coming to that lateral side as I work my way down. Coming back up over top. So I'm going to be giving you guys 10 minutes face to face, face to side, 10 minutes face to feet, face to side. Same thing for the iliotibial band, and then same thing for the hip flexor. But once again, I adjust these treatments. Right now, I teach you guys so cookie cutter that, you want to talk?
In a minute, when you're done.
Okay. No, you can go for it for a sec. Yeah, go for it.
So, I just wanted to reinforce this. How many people did you hear that were actually getting hip surgery or hip replacement or low back surgery 40 years ago? Nobody. How many 35 years? Nobody. How many 25 years? Nobody. How many 20 years ago? Go do your homework. 15 years ago it started. Okay, you know why? Because 90% of the food now that you call food that you eat, okay, and I will cheat on sometimes, is poison. So let's make this perfectly clear. The majority of the population is always going to eat poison because that's 90% of the grocery store, 70% of the health food store. We already know that the large intestine is the holy grail. I'm going to keep putting this into you guys. It's the holy grail. If you were to look after that, you're looking after everything. Everybody's pooping in their pelvis, and that's it. Mothers and fathers don't know what a good bowel movement is for themselves or their children. They don't even ask, okay? The only problem that a child has, or I should say 98% of all problems with children, okay, is what? Is their bowels, and we don't even know. That's where the fevers come from, that's where the pains come from. But when you get older, why do you think low back surgery is the main surgery today? It's the main surgery because you pooped in your pelvis. That created the infection. The infection actually created the inflammation around your spine. So now you have what? A slip disc. There is no such thing. You have a herniated disc, which is a swelling. That's the inflammation. And then it pulls the calcium out of the vertebrae to try to buffer and create a wall so the inflammation doesn't spread, and also stop any tumors, because cancer is just a very acidic environment, okay, a very acidic environment that has no oxygen. Remember, Dr. Otto Warburg discovered and got the Nobel Prize twice for discovering the cause of cancer, which is lack of oxygen, which is due to inflammation, which is due to infection. So now you've got all this decalcification here. So when they say that you've got osteoporosis, the worse that it becomes, it's an inflammatory diet, an inflammatory mind. But let's not forget, pooping in the pelvis, what? You don't think that the pelvic bowl is going to overflow with infection, create inflammation? That eventually goes into the hips. I'm going to say something right now, and guess what? I'm in trouble all the time, and I'm going to stay in trouble. Come and get me, because I'm right. And the reality is that the infection creates the inflammation that causes the scar tissue formation. You can have a person with a hip problem be bone on bone with the doctor. And we'll prove usually in one treatment that that is a scar tissue issue and they've got calcium. We put them on calcium ion therapy. We put them on daily cleansing tea and black gold because we got to get that intestine reinstated. If we can get them to buy into the ultimate coffee enema and purge that liver, their filter hasn't been cleaned, because nobody gets a hip replacement unless they're what? No, and also they're at the age of 50, 60, or 70. It's very unusual because you got to poop in your pelvis for 45 to 50 years to create that putrefaction, to create that inflammation, to pull the calcium out, to create that beef jerky. And I'm going to say this, and we can say this, no more canes, no more walkers. We have people that come here after one treatment, not all the time, so when we say something, it's not all the time. They can give up their cane in one time, or they can walk up the stairs, and the stairs they could hardly get down. Remember, it's always scar tissue and displaced calcium. So remember this, 90 to 95% of all hip surgeries, all knee surgeries, and all low back surgeries would never have happened if you weren't pooping in your pelvis. So when you're in here working on all of this stuff, remember something. You can do all the twisting like Sage said, but if you have an inflammatory diet or an inflammatory mind, then guess what?
then even repetitive exercise is going to create scar tissue because you're already on fire. But what if you had a perfect day diet? What if you actually did not have false evidence appearing real and allowing these terrorists, okay, the government, the medical system, and all these other systems terrorizing you? I'm going to keep saying this because it's the truth. These systems do not work for us. The only system you should be trying to understand is the solar system and your digestive system. And if you could understand those two systems and leave these other systems alone and ignore them. Thank you.
I don't need that, but
Okay.
thank you. But to answer your question, so it's 20 minutes per section to keep everything cookie cutter and even. So as I teach you guys, like this is to do like a perfect, I covered every area. What if they just had surgery here and they only feel pain kind of coming in? I know that the IT band's gonna be tight, but I might only do it for like 5 to 7 minutes. My focus point is going to be where the surgery was, or where I'm feeling the most scar tissue. So after I do a treatment on somebody, that kind of gives me the gauge of how I'm gonna adjust the treatments going forward in the future with them. I'll normally try to keep everything even the first time, be like, okay, I touched on it all. And then it's the same thing with the upper back when we were doing it. It's like you get 5.5 to 7 minutes per arm position. You might remove 2 of those positions, so you may spend 10 to 15 minutes just with their arms up or their arms down. So we just have to be adjustable. But yeah, it's gonna be 10 minutes face to face, 10 minutes face to side, 10 minutes face to face, 10 minutes face to 10 minutes face to face and face to side, 10 minutes face to feet, face to side on the iliotibial band, and then vice versa with the hip flexor. Hip flexor is a little bit smaller of an area, but if you're not super thorough and confident with getting in there, you do want to spend the amount of time because some people are pretty darn sensitive because that's going to be coming closer to that soup bowl area. So it is going to be more hypersensitive. And then also if they have a really backed up lymph, I'm going to get them patting and clapping. And you'll see I'll palpitate my hand just along the side of their groin to see if they have any swollen lymph nodes before I get my elbow in there. It inserts right here. It's pretty much from here to here. But then we have like a bunch of different muscles. Like we got our psoas muscle in here, which comes in and comes like up into the abdomen. I'll be touching on a bit of the psoas muscle when we're doing hip flexors. But you got a bunch of different stuff, but the IT band is just right in here. What? That's gonna be when I go to
You know, it's not good enough to have the most powerful courses, treatments, and training. We want to deliver to you the adventure of a lifetime that's going to last a lifetime. And I'm going to take you on a little adventure right now and show you what we are going to deliver. What are we going to deliver? We are going to deliver the authentic you, the real you, the genius inside. How would you like to become not just the master of your mind, but the master of your body, the master of your life? You know what? The most important world is your world, and we're about to show you how to create it. Never limit yourself to beautiful, because that's what you are. Take a look at this beautiful place.